All right, let's just dive right in. Picture this. It is pitch black outside. The streets are completely empty, and the world is just silent. I mean, the vast majority of the population is completely unconscious right now.
So what are you doing at 4 a.m.? If you're anything like me, or, well, most of us, you're deep in your third REM cycle, probably dreaming about eating a warm slice of pizza, right? But then there is this very specific, highly driven breed of person who is already wide awake and hitting the gym.
Lifting, grinding, sweating. And here's the absolute crucial point we need to get straight right off the bat. They didn't just forget to sleep. No, they deliberately, consciously chose this incredibly difficult path. So, welcome to This Explainer. We're going to go deep into the psychology of 4 a.m. gym goers. We'll unpack exactly why they do it, what actually makes them tick biologically, and honestly, whether you should be joining them. Stick around because understanding this is going to fundamentally change how you think about discipline, identity, and your time.
Section 1, the 4 a.m. mindset. So who actually are these people? Before we go any further, we literally have to kill a super stubborn myth. When we picture the 4 a.m. gym crowd, we kind of naturally imagine, ex-military operators or these massive hardcore bodybuilders. But honestly, the reality is totally different. We're talking about teachers, nurses, parents, college students, accountants. They're just regular people who simply made a decision that most people will absolutely never make. But why 4 a.m. specifically? Well, a huge part of it really just comes down to control. More specifically, what psychologists call temporal autonomy. Basically, that's just a fancy way of describing that powerful feeling that you completely own your time. Think about it. Life is, it's incredibly unpredictable. Your boss might throw an unexpected meeting on your calendar at noon. Your kids might get sick on a random Wednesday afternoon. Or a massive traffic jam can instantly ruin your 6 p.m. gym plan. But 4 a.m.? Nobody is calling you at 4 a.m. Nobody needs you. That time belongs completely, unquestionably, to you.
And that perfectly tees up our next concept, which is the completion effect. Look, there is something deeply, deeply powerful about starting your day by tackling the absolute hardest thing first. Knocking out a meaningful task this early literally floods your brain with dopamine. It builds this crazy momentum. You walk into the rest of your day already feeling like a total winner. Whatever life throws at you next, it doesn't matter because you've already conquered something huge. So these folks aren't waking up at 4 a.m. despite how hard it is. They're doing it entirely because of how hard it is.
Moving on to Section 2, identity over goals. This is where we uncover the real psychological framework here. How on earth do these individuals maintain such extreme, relentless consistency without just totally burning out? Well, it comes down to a massive contrast between two approaches. Setting a goal sounds something like, I want to go to the gym more, right? We've all said that. But an identity-driven mindset says, I am someone who trains every morning. And that is a total game changer. The most effective way to change your behavior doesn't start with just slapping a goal on a whiteboard. It starts with fundamentally shifting who you believe you are. The 4 a.m. gym goers, they've crossed that line. They aren't thinking, oh, I should really try to go to the gym today. They think, I am a morning trainer. It's not a habit anymore. It's their identity. And because their behavior is so deeply woven into their identity, skipping a session actually creates this really intense psychological friction. As this quote hits right on the head, for them, missing a workout doesn't just feel like being lazy. It feels like a betrayal of self. It's not just shrugging your shoulders and saying, whatever, I'll go tomorrow. It's this profound, deeply uncomfortable feeling of, wait, that is not who I am. What's really cool is how this strong identity acts like an anchor. It just ripples out into literally everything else they do. Because they see themselves as disciplined athletes, they naturally build out this whole ecosystem of associated habits. We're talking meal prepping on Sundays, keeping highly consistent sleep times, rigorously planning out their weeks. That early morning session isn't just some random isolated event. It is the keystone habit. It's the glue holding this entire highly structured daily system together. All right, let's get into Section 3, the neuroscience of 4 a.m. Let's actually look under the hood. What is physically happening inside the brain and the biology of the body when someone makes this intense daily choice? So, when that alarm blares and you somehow force yourself to ignore the cozy comfort of a warm bed, you are directly exercising what neuroscientists call your executive function. Basically, this is the VIP section of your brain. It's responsible for self-control, planning, making decisions, and here is the truly fascinating part. Just like your biceps or your quads, your executive function literally gets stronger the more you use it. You are quite literally doing reps with your willpower.
But the brain benefits don't even stop at willpower. Morning exercise massively spikes the levels of this vital protein called BDNF. And why do we care about BDNF? Because it leads directly to improved memory, hyperfocus, and boosted cognitive flexibility. Meaning, these early risers aren't just building physical muscle in the squat rack, they are actively sharpening their minds for the entire workday that hasn't even started yet.
The impact of this protein is so dramatic that scientists actually call BDNF miracle grow for the brain. I mean, how cool is that? It makes your brain remarkably sharper, much more resilient, and super adaptable. So think about it. By 6 a.m., when the rest of the world is just groggily stumbling around pouring their first cup of coffee, the 4 a.m. crew has already fertilized their brains for peak cognitive performance.
And all of this perfectly ties into what we call the cortisol connection. Now, I know cortisol gets a pretty bad rep as just being a stress hormone, but actually, it's your body's completely natural, built-in alarm clock. It naturally hits its absolute peak in the early morning. So by working out right at this time, you're syncing your highest physical intensity with your body's natural biological curve. Your body is totally primed for it. You get a better hormonal response, you recover faster. Physically speaking, your body is incredibly ready at 4 a.m. It is literally just your mind that needs convincing. Let's pivot to section 4, the toxic discipline trap. We need to slow things down for a second here. Because honestly, I'd be doing you a huge disservice if I just sat here and pretended that 4 a.m. gym culture is all sunshine and rainbows with zero downsides. Take a really close look at these numbers. 7 to 9. That is the strict, uncompromising biological requirement for hours of quality sleep per night for a human adult. Listen, sleep is not a luxury. It is a non-negotiable biological necessity. If you are waking up at 4 a.m., but you're not going to bed until midnight, you aren't winning. You are literally destroying your recovery, crushing your immune system, tanking your hormones, and ironically enough, you're destroying the exact fitness gains you're waking up so early to build. Which brings us to a frankly dangerous concept: toxic discipline. This is that wildly misguided belief that suffering is just always productive. It's a really toxic trap where people force themselves awake at 4 a.m., not because it actually fits their life or makes them better, but just because they want to feel hardcore. Let me be clear, sacrificing your vital sleep just for the sake of bragging about your alarm time, that is doing way, way more harm than good. So here is the real secret. The absolute healthiest, most successful 4 a.m. gymgoers you will ever meet, they have an 8:30 p.m. bedtime. Period. No exceptions. They do not cheat their sleep. They just shift it. They completely restructure their entire evenings. That means way less screen time, earlier dinners, and just an absolute unwavering commitment to getting into bed so they hit those crucial 7 to 9 hours. Section 5. Is 4 a.m. for you? Now that we've broken down the psychology, the neuroscience, and definitely the risks, let's bring this right back to you. Let's apply this to your life and your specific schedule. Should you be setting that crazy early alarm? Well, the very first thing you've got to figure out is your chronotype. This is essentially your biological and largely genetic preference for when you sleep and when you wake up. Look, some people are genuine hardwired night owls. Their performance naturally peaks at like 10 p.m. If you are a natural night owl and you try to force a 4 a.m. workout, your performance is actually going to tank. Your body needs more time to wake up, and forcing high-intensity training before your nervous system is fully online, that just leads to terrible form, a way higher risk of snapping something, and eventually your motivation is just going to completely burn out. This second major piece of the puzzle here is what we'll call the schedule factor. Let's be real for a second. If you've got kids, or you're juggling multiple jobs, or you have one of those brutal hour-long commutes, 4 a.m. might not just be a fun option, it might literally be your only option if you want to get a workout in. And hey, that is perfectly fine as long as you protect your sleep on the back end, like we talked about. But if you've got completely free evenings and you're only waking up at 4 a.m. because it sounds cool to say out loud, you kind of need to be honest with yourself. At the end of the day, the best workout routine is the one you can actually do consistently with full energy. As we start to wrap up this explainer, I think the ultimate takeaway from studying these early risers really just boils down to one simple phrase: remove the negotiation. 4 a.m. gymgoers are so fascinating to study because they have totally solved a problem that the rest of us struggle with every single day. When that alarm goes off, there is zero debate. There's no hitting the snooze button. Why? Because the decision was already made the night before. True high performers succeed by building a life where discipline isn't something they have to force, it's just a totally natural extension of who they are. So the real lesson we're taking away here isn't even really about the specific time on the clock. It's all about identity. It's about ownership. Whether you choose to crush your training at 4 a.m., high noon, or 8 p.m., the ultimate question remains exactly the same. Are you the kind of person who shows up for yourself, even when it's really, really hard? Definitely something to think about before your next workout.